Today's number one most urgent vulnerability is CVE 2026-18577 in Enable N-Central, and it earns the top slot for a simple reason. This is not just a theoretical authentication bug. It is listed in CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. The official description says, an incomplete patch for CVE 2026-18576 allows authentication bypass and account takeover in N-Central versions through 2026.3.1. On the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, we rank what to patch first by real exploitation signal, CISA KEV, first EPSS, and CVSS, and today those signals point to action. If N-Central is part of your management stack, treat this as a priority validation and remediation item, not a routine backlog ticket. N-Central is the affected product named in the advisory data, and the vulnerability is an authentication bypass that can lead to account takeover. The description also matters because it says this resulted from an incomplete patch for an earlier issue, CVE 2026-18556. In plain English, the system was supposed to close off an authentication weakness, but the fix did not fully eliminate the path that matters. The weakness category is CVE-288, which is authentication bypass using an alternate path or channel. That means the danger is not necessarily that a password is guessed or stolen. The danger is that some route through the application may fail to enforce the same authentication checks defenders expect. When that happens in a management product, successful abuse can quickly become a much broader operational problem. Verdict: this is a high-severity flaw because it is remotely reachable, requires no prior privileges, and can expose highly sensitive data if the vulnerable path is reachable. The CVSS 4.0 vector gives it an 8.2 high rating. The most important metrics are the ones defenders should care about first. Attack vector is network, privileges required is none, and user interaction is none. That combination means the attacker does not need a foothold account and does not need to trick an administrator into clicking something. There is one tempering factor. Attack complexity is high, so exploitation is not rated as simple in every environment. But high complexity does not cancel the risk, especially when CISA says exploitation is already known. The real-world concern is the KEV listing. CISA KEV means the vulnerability is known to be exploited, so defenders should not evaluate this as a paper-only CVE. EPSS is also provided at the 0.7132 percentile, which is a useful probability signal, but KEV is the stronger urgency marker here because it reflects known exploitation rather than only prediction. The impact described is account takeover. That phrase deserves attention. Account takeover is not just unauthorized viewing. It can mean an attacker gains control of an existing account context. In a tool used for centralized operations or management, that can create downstream risk across users, customers, systems, or administrative workflows, depending on how the environment is configured. Conceptually, this is the kind of issue where reachability is the first question. If an N-Central instance is reachable from untrusted networks, an attacker has a possible path to interact with the exposed service. Because the CVSS vector says no privileges and no user interaction are required, the defensive assumption should be that the vulnerable condition can be probed without an existing account and without social engineering. The weakness category tells us the likely shape of the problem. An authentication check may be avoidable through an alternate route or flow. We are not going into payloads, proof of concept behavior, or reproduction steps. For defenders, the point is simpler: reduce exposure, confirm the vendor's fixed or mitigated state, and assume authentication logs alone may not tell the whole story if the bypass avoids normal login paths. Start by finding every N-Central deployment you operate or depend on, including externally reachable systems, internal-only systems, hosted environments, and any systems managed by a service provider. The official NVD description says N-Central versions through 2026.3.1 are affected, but do not stop at that sentence alone. Use the vendor release notes and status advisory for exact version, hotfix, and mitigation guidance, because those are the authoritative sources for what state is safe. Inventory should include the application version, whether a vendor-provided fix or mitigation has been applied, where the service is exposed, who can reach it, and which accounts have administrative rights. If you rely on a third party for N-Central operations, ask them for explicit confirmation, not a generic patching statement. The remediation priority is straightforward. Apply the vendor-provided fix or mitigation for CVE 2026-18577 as soon as your change process allows, and treat internet-exposed instances as the highest priority. While patching is being completed, reduce who can reach the service. Use network controls, allow lists, VPN or administrative access boundaries where appropriate, and remove unnecessary exposure. Then review privileged accounts. Look for accounts that should not exist, accounts with elevated rights that are no longer needed, and recent changes to administrator membership. If there are signs that an account may have been taken over, follow your incident response process. Preserve logs, reset affected credentials, review sessions, and check for unauthorized configuration changes. Do not rely on patching alone if compromise is plausible. For detection, baseline what normal and central administration looks like in your environment. Normal should include known administrators, expected source networks, usual access times, normal account change patterns, and approved maintenance windows. Then hunt for deviations. Watch for newly created accounts, unexpected privilege changes, password or recovery changes, successful access from unfamiliar addresses or geographies, and administrative actions that occur outside normal operating hours. Because this is an authentication bypass issue, also watch for session behavior that does not line up with normal login activity, such as privileged actions without the expected preceding authentication trail. Review configuration changes, integrations, notification settings, and any changes that could preserve access. If logs are forwarded to a central system, make sure retention covers the relevant investigation window and that alerts are tuned for account takeover behavior, not just failed logins. To recap, CVE 2026-18577 is today's #1 ranked CVE because it combines a high CVSS score, an authentication bypass leading to account takeover, and confirmed presence in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. The official description ties it to an incomplete patch for CVE 2026-18556 and says N-Central versions through 2026.3.1 are affected. Your action plan is to confirm exposure, apply the vendor fix or mitigation, restrict access, review privileged accounts, and monitor for takeover indicators. This is the Daily Ranked CVE Brief. What to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal every day. Subscribe for tomorrow's ranked breakdown, and check the full ranked report linked in the description.